Sally Anna here. Yeah, I decided as if I could decide anything. Spirit was deciding to record this Spirit Knows All. And I'm kind of all excited today, because I've had offers to publish my books, so it's finally happening. I'm all a bit, it's knocked me out of sync, so I'm all kind of excited. Yeah, so Spirit Knows All, according to the Course in Miracles, the script is already written, and the world was over long ago, and what we're experiencing is the memory of it all. So you could say the entire history of the planet, if you looked at it as a book format, then the final chapters were read millions of years ago and the book was closed. Yet it's like we've decided to open the book again and look at it again. And so, but the Spirit can always tell you what happens in the next chapter, or what happens at the end, because it's already done, it's already over. And a higher spirit self knows exactly what the story of our life entails. It knows everything. And I've had a direct experience of this, even before my awakening, which I had at the age of 40 in February 2009. The awakening story is on my website. It's www.sallyangelic.co.uk. The story's there, but even before then, it was kind of known what was coming for me, and has nothing really to do with laws of attraction and manifestation, and because for me, when you get down deeper into the truth, law of attraction and manifestation is just it's just part of the script. It doesn't change or do anything really, and it's like some of the famous authors will say that, you know, just thinking a thought or having an idea once doesn't bring it into reality, because otherwise every time we thought of a pink elephant, one would stand before us and would have an house full of pink elephants. So it don't work like that anyway. It's what's written is written. And so my earliest memory of knowing what was coming for me, I was about 6 years old, and about 6 or 7, I was just taken into care at the time and rescued by my grandparents, because the levels of abuse that we seemed to experience. My brother, who was 5 years older than me, he'd gone into a correction facility, or Borstal, a young offenders institute, because he was so screwed up by then. So he left, and my brother, who was a year older than me, we lived by this farmer's fields, and he was just an animal lover. He loved nature, he loved animals. He was a bit like Dr. Dolittle, so he used to go off on his ventures and and bring home animals and love animals and repair animals and nurse them back to health. He was just his own walking, talking little animal hospital. With me, I don't know why, but I was born with this deep fascination with babies, this deep love of babies, and I was just obsessed, and I was just in love with babies, and I really, they were my everything. And I don't know where that came from or why that came, but there was a strength. I just adored babies and children, and so that was early on. And so we used to live, when we got taken into care, we used to live a couple of blocks away from the maternity hospital, and I used to walk through these big raw iron gates, these big black gates, and I could go along this passageway and end up at the back of the special care baby unit, where all the premature babies were housed. And although I was only tiny, I couldn't see through the window. Yet one day I saw all these loose bricks, and I stacked these loose bricks one up on top of the other, and stood on them, and until my nose just sat on the windowsill, and I could see all these premature babies, and I don't know, tiny little babies. They're laying there in their incubators with just a nappy on them. Some of them so tiny they're eyes were still fused, and you could see all the veins and the heart beating in the chest, and it was as if I was sending love to those babies and willing them babies to live. And I used to go up there quite often to have a peek at them babies, and I said, babies, one day I'm gonna come, I'm gonna work with you, I'm gonna look after you all. And I just said that once, but I had an idea that I was gonna do it, and I never really thought any more of it. And then I was 6 at the time, it was about 14 years later, the events took a turn, and everything seemed to happen at once, like in a cluster, over a period of a year. And I actually, there was reasons why I didn't finish my education, which I won't go into now, it's a bit gruesome. But anyway, I went to college to sit my exams, what I never sat at school, and I also entered this pre-nursing program. So I was doing these GCSEs. So I was doing 5 in a year, and it was a pre-nursing course, and I was on track for that. And because I was on track with that, I got placement in the local hospital to have hands-on experience, which I did. And of course, being on site then, I got to see the internal job applications. The job offers that were going out to the public used to come out internally first, and so I was in the right place at the right time, and I happened to see this NVQ program, this nursing program, and I thought I'm going to apply for that, and I did, and I was interviewed, and I got a job on a trauma orthopedic ward, and I wasn't on that ward very long. I don't know, about a couple of months, when an internal job came up on the board, and it was like, oh my god, it was my dream job, my life. It was working on the midwifery unit, the maternity, delivering babies, and working in special care and in the nursery there. And it was like, whoa. And it was like everybody wanted that job, and it was like what they call a gold dust job. And there were 50 applicants, and I made an application as well. And even though I'd only had like 2 months of nursing experience, I wanted to apply, and I was shortlisted down to 7, and I was interviewed for the job, and I got it. So yeah, I got the job, and it was a miracle how I got the job. So it all happened in the space of a year, and there used to be 2 midwives by law, but then the cutbacks meant that it was 1 midwife, 1 nurse, and I got to be the delivering nurse. So I was in on all the deliveries and cesarean sections, and I was on night shifts. I used to do 8 nights on and 6 nights off. So I used to man the nursery at night, and when there was no deliveries, and then I happened to be there when sextuplets were born, and there was this media frenzy, and all the windows had to be blacked out, and the workload on the unit just went through the roof. So I was asked to transfer over to special care baby unit and work with the sextuplets while they were there, and I sat in the room looking after these babies, and I was sat in this room staring at the window that I used to look into. And so now I was inside, and I was actually looking after these babies. So but it was always known that I was going to be there, and everything lined up perfectly that I'd be there. There was no way that I'd not be there, because it was already scripted, it was already written. And another thing also that seemed to come when I was about age 10, because I had this fascination with babies. I was looking after this lady's, she had 3 girls, and I could change a terry towel in nappy with a baby, just put them on my lap and just do them in a whiz and do them perfectly. And people used to look at me, it's like, how's she do that? because they couldn't do it, and they certainly couldn't do it on their lap, and they had to do it on the floor on a changing mat. And I don't know how I did this, but I just did, and I ended up always looking after this woman's 3 girls on my evenings, my weekends, and all my school holidays. I was just constantly looking after these kids, and then this woman came up to me who was her neighbour, and she said, "Whoa," she said, "you're such a whiz with kids." She said, "You're going to have half a dozen of your own." And I said, "What's half a dozen?" And she said, "6." So I said, "Oh, I'm going to have 6 kids." And I never knew that I was being given a message that I was going to have 6. I thought it was just a comment, but no, I was actually going to have 6. But in my rational mind, I only wanted 2, a boy and a girl. But when I had my 3rd baby, and my husband had a vasectomy, and I was on the high street, and my new baby in the pushchair, and this gypsy came along, and I always used to run and hide from gypsies because they scared me in a way. Not only did they just stop you and start blurting all this stuff in your face that you didn't really want to hear, they charged you a lot of money for it, and if you didn't pay or you didn't listen, I was told that they could curse you. And so I was always scared of these gypsies, and they were always on our high street. But this particular day, they seemed to get me square on, and there was no running. And she just looked at me and said, "Oh, these your children?" There was 3 then. I just had my 3rd, and it was the final. The husband had a vasectomy, and I said yes. And she said, "Oh, you'll have far more kids than this." And I looked at her, I was a lot mortified. No, I won't," I said. "Oh, yes, there's more to come." And I was like, no, there's no more. No, there's many more. And I looked at her, and she said, "You will have an even number of children." Well, I only had 3 at the time. And I never considered that I would have more, because I was in this contract, this egoic contract with my husband, that I felt I could never break or never leave. And he'd had a vasectomy, and I certainly didn't want any more children at the time, and so I could never see how that would pan out. But I did go on to have 6 children, and yeah, my little Molly was the last one, and so that was also kind of known. And the other thing that was also known, that was hinted to me in 2001. This is 8 years before my awakening. I trained as a nurse, and then I worked in the laboratories for the NHS in biochemistry. And coincidentally, when I worked in the laboratories, analysing all the bloods and the tests and doing all the data inputting and stuff, when I got the job there, I was given the responsibility of phlebotomist for neonates and premature babies. So I actually worked on special care again, and this time under the role of phlebotomist. I used to take all the bloods from the premature babies, and so I was working with them again in that role. But it was fast and furious there, and I was working 6 days a week, and it felt like 12 hours a day, and it was fast paced, and my life had changed so many ways. I needed to be a little more available to my kids, so I saw this job that it was for a chemist, an industrial-like chemist, if you like, but it was not industrial in the sense, but more of a physical chemist, you know, and it was in a private school, and so it was to work half the hours for double the money. So, and the perks were amazing, because it was a school. I used to get like 12 weeks holiday a year, and it fitted in perfectly with my kids. So I decided I was going to apply for this job, even though I'd never had a single chemistry lesson in my life. If you read my book, you'll know why I didn't have a single chemistry lesson in my life, and I had no qualifications of